Okay, tell me about behaviour.
Behaviour is the physical actions that we do to interact with the world around us. I happen to think behaviour is incredible. I'm saying the obvious here. Behaviour is very important because to do anything, we have to start with some ideas that are in our head, start maybe some beliefs, maybe some states. We then have to do something because it's the doing which is the link between what goes in our heads and actually achieving results. And if you take an NLP training for one thing, the one thing that is important for me, for people on a training course, is they demonstrate the behaviours of doing NLP. The fact that they might say nod and say that's great is nice, but what's important, and they don't necessarily have to do it well, but I actually have to see them doing the behaviours, because once they've started doing the behaviours, then it's easy for it to grow and they will have an impact.
All I mean to say is that things like outcomes are very external to us, but behaviour is something that we're doing all the time, that we actually have hands-on control with.
Yes.
So in order to affect the outcome and to affect the actual feelings of a person, it's all about the behaviour, rather than the outcome. I mean, the outcome.
I think I agree. I think I agree. Within the words that we're talking about, I think I agree with you.
Okay, so talk me through how, or even why, you would want to change somebody's behaviour. If they were to come,
I wouldn't necessarily want to change it.
If they came to you and they said, "Please change my behaviour. I am doing something crazy or unhelpful," what steps would you take to help them change their own behaviour?
I think I would need to understand what exactly they wanted to achieve. Now, it might be they might want to achieve good feelings, they might want to achieve a result in the outside world, but I would actually find out what their, what do they want to achieve? And say it might be a state, it might be a feeling, it might be they wanted to build a bridge, and you can choose what it is, but we'd then work back from there. We'd also look at what are they doing now to cause the behaviour, what's happening that gets them to do the behaviour they're doing now. Because between the two, we'd work out the differences where we could help them, or where we could suggest to them, or maybe they could suggest to us, because they now have the information to make changes that would enable them to do what they wanted.
Okay, so what's a particular, just a practical example of how they could change their own behaviour?
I can't do it out of context.
Okay.
For what you have to.
Say for example that somebody smoked and they didn't want to smoke anymore.
Right. Okay.
What is a practical step, maybe an exercise or just a general piece of advice that you would give them?
Okay, there again, within NLP itself, there are probably hundreds of different varieties of what you can do if you want to help somebody smoking. The simplest approach, if we go back to anchoring, would be to find the sequence of behaviours that they do in order to smoke. Maybe they unwrap the packet, maybe they open the packet, they have to light a cigarette up. There's a number of specific stages, so find out the specific sequence that they do, and in going through the sequence, look for a pivot point or a change point. Whereas if you injected a particular, or get them to associate with a particular emotion at that point, it would get them to do something else. Because really with smoking, you might want to, I'll speak very simplistically here, you may want to give them a slightly negative anchor as to smoking, and there's all sorts of delightfully horrible things I could think of that would enable them to do that, and you might want them to drink some water or to do any behaviour that is different, that is positive, that doesn't smoke, that is involved in smoking. Even if it's striking the bloody match and blowing it out. What you've got to do is to give them a choice point where they don't automatically smoke.
Okay, so would you say that, as a general rule, not an assumption, a general rule, that anchoring and behaviour have a huge correlation with each other?
Yes, it's one of the tools. Anchoring is one of the important tools. If you want to help somebody, if somebody wants, rather than me changing their behaviour, if somebody wants to change your behaviour, playing around with anchors can be a tremendously useful way of doing it.
And in turn, behaviour and outcome. the behaviour in action.
Well, by changing their out behaviours, they will change the results they get. If you happen to believe this, if somebody changed their behaviour from smoking to not smoking, all other things being equal, they will have a longer, healthier life. Okay? May not be true, because sometimes people may benefit from actually smoking. But as a back to generalisation, yeah, obviously by changing their behaviour, they are changing their lives in some way.